Volume.
You gotta have your volume off. That way you don't have to pause and unpause yourself.
Yeah, what are we doing? The volume down?
Volume off.
I thought it was microphone.
No, you don't. That way you don't have to pause and unpause. That's what Sarah told me last time. Whatever Sarah says is the truth. Turn my camera off.
You're predicting 42 what?
42, huh?
Oh, it's somebody's birthday today.
I bet she did.
I'll just wait till you get home and you can tell me what happened. The Cliff Notes?
Oh, look at my
Yeah.
little baby.
But I had to talk to the neighbors before I could get in my car, right? It's one of those deals.
I'm going to turn the streaming on, okay?
Okay.
Just so folks know.
All right.
Is everyone ready? 6 o'clock? Guess I can take this off.
Did we hear from Paul?
Yeah, I don't think he is either. We're live, Ready? I'd like to call to order the August 24th Shakopee Public Schools regular business meeting. Sarah, could you please do the call, a roll call?
Aldrich,
Here.
Brophy,
Here.
Christensen, McKeon,
Here.
Tomzik,
Here.
Tucker,
Here.
and Peterson.
Here. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
May I now?
Yep.
I'm going to jump in before we do the consideration of the agenda and suggest that we just take a moment of silence out of respect for Christy and her family on the recent passing of her father. Yeah, thank you. And Christy, just know that everybody in this room is, we're with you and your family.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Moving on to item 3 on the agenda tonight is the consideration of agenda as presented. Are there any changes that you'd like to suggest at this time? Seeing none, I need a motion to approve the agenda
I'll make
as
a motion
presented.
to approve.
Second.
So we have a motion by Tucker, second by McKeon to approve the agenda as presented. Any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Roll call.
Aye.
Opposed?
Roll call.
Do we need a roll call?
Oh, I'm sorry. Roll call.
Aldrich,
Yes.
Brophy,
Yes.
Christensen, McKeon,
Yes.
Tomzik,
Yes.
Tucker,
Yes.
and Peterson.
Yes. One of these times I will have it figured out, and then we'll be going back to normal voting, so. All right, we are in section 4 of our agenda tonight, which is the public comments section. If there are any members of the community that would like to address the board at this time in regards to a topic either on the agenda or of different subject matter, now is the time to come forward and do so. Seeing none, we will move on to item 5, which is the consent agenda. We have several items on the list tonight, including some teachers, certified contracts, retirements, as well as approval of co-curricular assignments for the upcoming sports seasons. Are there any questions or comments in regards to the consent agenda? Seeing none, I would need a motion.
So moved.
We have
Second.
a motion by McKeon, second by Tomzik. Any further discussion?
I'll just like to say welcome back, Doug, even if it's just for a short time.
Thank you. Sarah, could you please do the roll?
Aldrich,
Yes.
Brophy,
Yes.
Christensen, McKeon,
Yes.
Tomzik,
Yes.
Tucker,
Yes.
and Peterson.
Yes. Moving on to item 6 on the agenda, which is the business portion of our meeting tonight. Item 6.1 is the consideration to approve the second reading of a resolution for the endorsement of safe and inclusive schools. Tim, would you like to talk to us about that?
Sure. As we spoke the last meeting, we're following suit, as many districts have, to put in affirmative language and take up a resolution. Specifically, we're using the language safe and inclusive, inclusive being the operative word, in terms of how we want to structure the culture and safety of students and staff. And I'll just proceed to read it, and if there's questions after that, I'd be happy to address that. Whereas the learning and safety of the students of Shakopee Public Schools is our top priority, and whereas the Shakopee Public Schools and School Board is committed to the success of each and every student by providing a safe, secure, and inclusive school district, whereas leaders of the Shakopee Public Schools, we are compelled to speak out in response to events that call attention to racist actions and all forms of racism, which has a profound impact on our students, families, staff, and community. Whereas students and families, community members have expressed fear, sadness, and concerns for their safety, heightened by intolerant rhetoric. Whereas we believe each of us, individually and collectively, are responsible for nurturing educational learning environments where each and every child is respected and valued for who they are, regardless of ability, age, gender identity, home or first language, national origin, race, religious belief, sexual orientation, or socioeconomic status. And whereas providing a safe and inclusive school environment that ensures physical and emotional safety of our students and staff creates the conditions necessary to foster academic achievement. Now, therefore, be it resolved, Shakopee Public Schools condemns all hateful speech and all forms of racism, commits to fostering a school environment that promotes respect for and curiosity about all cultures, affirms the equal humanity of all members of the community, and rejects all forms of bullying and discrimination, and commits to instituting school board goals and policies and district educational curriculum that reflect the values expressed in this resolution, and to reform current policies should they not be aligned with the vision presented in this resolution.
Thanks, Tim. Are there any questions in regards to this second reading?
I just would like to state that, and I've said this before, so I'm repeating myself, but this is a very important resolution, and it's one that's backed up by action as well. There are many ways that Shakopee schools are tending to this hardly felt resolution.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, I would like a motion to approve the policy.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
So we have a motion by Tucker, second by Tomzik, to approve the resolution for the endorsement of safe and inclusive schools. Sarah, could you please do a roll call?
Aldrich,
Yes.
Brophy,
Yes.
Christensen, McKeon,
Yes.
Tomzik,
Yes.
Tucker,
Yes.
and Peterson.
Yes, thank you. Moving on to 6.2 and a related policy. This is a second reading of policy 102.A, and I'm going to turn it back over to Tim.
Yeah, thank you. And again, as we talked about in the last meeting, so the policy 102 does have language in terms of anti-discrimination. This 102A is really more affirmative language, what we stand for, and it's consistent with what we just voted on relative to the resolution. So the Equal Educational Opportunity Policy 102A, Shively Public Schools will provide equitable, respectful, and inclusive educational services and experience for each student, family, and staff member, regardless of ability, age, gender, gender identity, home or first language, national origin, race, religious beliefs, sexual orientation, or socioeconomic status. We provide inclusive experience where each student can flourish as a learner and be well prepared for post-secondary success. The achievement of our equity vision will, in part, occur when the outcomes of student academic performance are no longer predicted by the race and/or other identifying characteristics of our students. We will strengthen staff skills and cultural responsiveness and support them in working effectively with learners, families, and colleagues from diverse backgrounds.
Thank you, Tim. And just for clarification, this is an addendum to 102. Policy 102, this is not a replacement, so just clarification, this is an add-on. Any further discussion?
I'll make a motion on this one as well.
Okay, we have a motion by Tucker,
Second.
second by Aldridge. Any further comments or discussion? Seeing none, Sarah, please call the roll.
Aldridge,
Yes.
Brophy,
Yes.
Christensen, McKeon,
Yes.
Tomzak,
Yes.
Tucker,
Yes.
and Peterson.
Yes. Thank you. Moving on to item 6.3, which is a presentation by our Assistant Superintendent Dave Orlowski in regards to our enrollment trends for the upcoming school year.
Hello. Bonus, because you're going to get some historical enrollment trend information as well, but I'm going to start with kind of exactly where we're at this year, and then I'll also be looking for feedback. Sarah helped with a lot of this and pointed out that this used to be, and we've talked about it before, kind of a regular recurring, and so I'll be looking for feedback on what you'd like to see on a regular basis as well. So you might get number and spreadsheet overload tonight. But this is dual purpose, kind of a history and kind of maybe some level setting on what you might want to see in the future. So if you can go to the next one. So this gives you the lay of the land as it is as of today. Okay, so you're going to see 2 columns, or 3 columns really, what we projected for 2021, what we were as of today, and what the departure is. So probably the most attention-getting number is the first one at the top, and I'm going to let you look at that, and you can see we're projected 529 kindergartners. As of today, we were at 448, and you can see that difference there. Where we're below projection, it's pinkish red, and where we're above projection, you can see it's green. Okay? As a net, you can see K-5, again, driven primarily by that kindergarten number. We're 107 students below where we would have projected. We're 24 over at the secondary level for a net of 83 below what we are expecting. We do have a lot of kids enrolling right now, and that is not that's not unusual to see a lot of kids coming these last couple weeks before school starts. I'm not sure how the current world impacts these numbers, but we will find out. I can tell you that the Welcome Center has been exceptionally busy over the past few weeks, and so we do expect to see those numbers move, but also know when we're adding kids, we also have kids that are enrolling somewhere else as well. So until the dust really settles, we don't know exactly where it is. I'll tell you one other piece about that kind of net out. Since probably the first or second week of July, we've registered over 150 students, but our net, we're plus about 30 or 35 kids. So while we bring in 150, we have 115, 110, 15, 20 that leave us. So net positive, but still, you can't just look at enrollment numbers or new registration numbers. Okay. This is a little historical, last fall, October 1st, that's a significant date where we usually put kind of a stake in the ground on counting kids. And so you can see what we were October 1st of last year and then where we ended the year, okay? And just primarily for projections, you can get a sense. If you look at that 530 kindergartners on June 1st, and you just go down one row and at an angle, you'll see that's kind of where the projection is. We usually just roll kids forward. The 530 to the 529, the 563 to the 560, 584 to 580, and so forth. Okay? Does that make sense? Good? Okay. All right, this is way more detail, and it's kind of small, but I'm going to talk you through this. If you look at the top, that's K through 5 for Eagle Creek, and then you see Eagle Creek's total. So Eagle Creek's projection was 739 students. That first gray kind of highlighted bar there, as of today, they're at 727, about 12, well, they are 12 students below where they were projected. And then you can see that breakdown as well by grade, by school. Okay, you can see the biggest departure there is at Jackson, and again, driven primarily by kindergarten. And if you look at Sweeney, they're right now 25 kids below that kindergarten number and 26 below overall. So if you take those out of there, the projections are actually pretty close to kindergarten, but you don't get to just do that. But it gives you an idea. We talked before about the biggest challenge for us is projecting kindergarten numbers, and this really bears that out in kind of a significant way.
Dave, can I ask you a question before you move on?
Yep.
In regards to the projection number, is that basically just a flat number from last year? Or how did you come up with the projection number for this coming school year?
That's kind of what we were looking at on that one where you just down and over one, kind of that diagonal. That's been about as accurate as we've been. And we really do, we make some adjustments going from 8th into 9th grade where we pick up some private school students. We've been adding somewhere between 40 and 60 kids. So we've looked at what our average addition is each year and we add that in. And then at the high school level, we do back out PSEO students as well. And so there are some adjustments made, but that just, who's in the seats right now has been, over the past number of years, a pretty good predictor of who will be there next year. Okay, and Sarah, if you could hit it. This is that elementary numbers rolled up, and you kind of saw that's on the first sheet, but this is just K-5 in isolation. Okay, and then I do have the history on there by grade, by school as well. And the history is just October 1st of last year and June 1st. So you get an idea and then how the numbers change throughout the year. And again, I'll say Sarah's done a nice job of keeping some of this data over the years. So we, who said Mike talked about in the finance committee meeting earlier looking for patterns. We can start to see some patterns, but you can look at over the course of the year, for the most part, what we start with is really similar to what we end with at K-5.
Dave, can I ask you?
Yeah.
I know that prediction like this is really difficult to do. So would you say these numbers are within the parameters that you would expect? Are they too much one way or too much the other way?
Well, the kindergarten number is out of sync with what we would have expected and hoped for as well. We did do some other modeling this year. We tried to, add some sophistication to it by looking at births, early childhood screening, some other factors as well, and tried to even combine some of those variables and build almost like our own projection model. And we had a bunch of different projections for this year that we were going to use to see which model was the best, and all that's out the window with where we're at right now because we just don't know what's actually pushing on those numbers right now.
Well, and if I may, just a follow-up to that question.
Yeah.
And it's speculative, but is there a chance that there are parents choosing simply to keep their kindergartners home for one more year under the circumstances? Or is, if you look at more of a macro in the district, is it a lift and shift? Are these kids just enrolling somewhere else?
Yeah. So we've heard anecdotally that some people, and I've heard people use the term red shirt year for kindergarten. And so we don't have hard data on that, and so I'm hesitant to say yes for sure, but anecdotally I have heard that in multiple places. I mean, not just once, but multiple times where people might be making that decision. So I guess we'll get to wait till next fall to find out. Maybe something cool happens mid-year or something. That would be a good time to find out as well.
So Dave, looking at Jackson, do these numbers actually put us below capacity at Jackson?
Nope, right now there would be space at Jackson, and we have done some things, I'm going to infer that I'll infer, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, you're leading toward that intra-district transfer question as well, or not?
No, I was just wondering because we've been, Jackson's gotten a lot of feedback,
Yeah.
or we've gotten a lot of feedback that Jackson's overcrowded, and then when we've unpacked it and talked to parents, they've loved it there. But it'd be nice, if one of the silver linings of having fewer kids is that they can be at a very comfortable operating capacity.
Yep, and they are. They're 54, they're 50, 60 kids below the capacity of that school, and they've operated at 870.
Okay.
And so that's not ideal, but they're well below that.
So when you look at, just to piggyback on the Jackson question, when you look at the numbers for kindergarten at Jackson, and you have the big drop-off, that's more than a classroom with that number of 31.
Mhm.
So does that mean that because we are going to be doing all day, every day kindergarten, that there will be less in a classroom, but we're keeping the same number of teachers?
Well, you have a couple of things pushing on that. One is the number of kindergartners that chose online. So some come out. This is gross numbers that regardless of they were IHD or online. So some staff needs to move there. And then we also said kindergartners are coming every day. The max number of kids we're going to put in a classroom is 16. So when we project our staffing based on a bigger number than that, 20, and then we wind up with 16, it actually, you could say numerically, it really works to our advantage this time. And so both of those things tend to move those numbers around. And we're actually, I think we're in a decent spot there right now. Okay. Okay, ready? You guys good? Okay, same exact thing, looking at the secondary. So I'll let you look at that for just a second. You'll see that there's much more green on there, like we saw in those rolled up numbers. In the high school, and we again alluded to this in our finance committee meeting prior to this one, where how you treat PSEO and Takata, they're both kind of pulled out here as separate numbers. You can see that we're using a number of about 78, well exactly in this case 78 for PSEO kids, and Takata 97 students. Okay, and then that history again, if you hit that one. Oh no, there's the rolled up. Kind of the summary, which you've seen already. And then if you hit it one more time, go back. Behind that gray box, which you're not going to get to see right now, is what happened on October 1st and June 1st of last year. So I'll make sure that's in the handout as well. If you want to, Sarah, just hit escape for a second. And click on that box and hit delete. We'll just take it out of there altogether, that gray box. Oh, so we will not see that here right now. I can tell you there's some very nice numbers back there behind that gray box. Okay, next. Yeah, that's a cliffhanger. You'll have to come back next time. This is, I alluded to Sarah kind of doing a good job keeping the history. So I put, starting in 92, going every 5 years. And so you can see, we've talked about it before, how this district was just growing like crazy. And then if you look up to, you go to the bottom row, going from about 2,800 kids to 8,200 kids over that 25-year period. And then you can see what we've talked about, and even as part of the levy discussion and budget challenges, that leveling off and even dropping a little bit creates some of that challenge there. So you can start to see that going from that 82 down to 7,900. Okay, next. Okay, this is a lot to deal with, but I'm going to explain if you'll just look at Eagle Creek for a second here. Their current enrollment was 727 kids. 218 of them chose online. 509 of them are IHD. So you can kind of see for each school, and if you're not into the numbers, you're just looking at patterns, you can kind of see it was very consistent across our schools, the comparison of online to IHD, kind of that little gold box looks to be relatively similar across the board. And if you hit one more time, Sarah, I compared that to what our projection was, so you can still kind of see that as well. Like, you've seen that a couple times already, but if you like it a little more visually, you get the idea. Okay? And then this gives you an idea, again, of how enrollment flows. So I'm going to use Eagle Creek as an example again. We projected 739. On March 20th, we had 622. On July 20th, we had 709, then 727, and then I split them out, which you just saw. So you can kind of see it growing there, that over 100 kids between March and August. A lot of that is usually, primarily kindergarten, because we don't have many kindergarten enrollments starting in March. We have some, but the majority of that growth is often kindergarten. Okay? So hang on there for a second. Any questions there? Are you good? Okay, next. We're almost done. And this I just put a couple boxes on there. So if you wanted to see kind of the percentage by school, how many chose IHD and how many chose online. Again, like the little gold boxes showed, they were relatively similar. It's in a pretty narrow range, I think, from the percent that chose online versus IHD. Fairly consistent. Okay? And I think that's it. Okay?
Dave, I have one question.
Yep.
Have you heard, and maybe Mike, you chime in on this too, have you heard what other districts are experiencing with enrollment through their different back-to-school options that they're offering, and if they're seeing similar decline in kindergarten or in other grades?
If it's okay, I'll let Mike comment, if you're good with that, Mike, because I know you've talked to your colleagues and heard some of that.
Yeah, and again, it's primarily anecdotal, although we share numbers, and yeah, and again, I think that phrase, we hear red shirt and we think of, college athletics, and I've heard that phrase really for the first time ever used to refer to kindergartners, and not just in Shakopee, but across the metro and across the state. So I think, and then even the numbers, I think it depends in terms of, what is the online program, how that's being done. I think places that have done, like Shakopee Online or a separate academy, typically that number has been somewhere near 20% of people, but there's a variance probably between 15 and 25. And that seems to have held fairly constant. Somewhere it's more kind of a different sort of a pullout from the regular class. Some of those might have been a little bit below 15, although some of those were around 22. Their range was probably more like 10 to 20. So, and again, just anecdotal as we share the challenges and hopefully the successes, and again, the scheduling of all this is just an enormous task.
The only reason why I asked the question is, I know our kindergarten numbers, 81 kids, less than what we projected, but I'm hearing other districts, neighboring districts that are down significantly more than that. I mean, 16% down from our projection. To me, even though it seems like 81 kids is a lot, I'm hearing much larger numbers in other districts, so.
I am guessing, I mean, who knows, right? But I think we will add a decent amount between now and the start of the year as well. I don't know what that'll be. Maybe that'll be for sure something we come back and talk about, where we landed. But I know, and I'm still taking calls from parents and from schools as well about questions, and we're sometimes gaining, and we're somebody who really likes what it looks like we're going to do, and somebody who thinks they are making a better decision somewhere else. And so it's kind of this new equilibrium that's being established by people of what works for them. And if you can see, we have people working so hard. We have a great program, and I think people that are making the choice to come are going to be really satisfied and really happy with what we do here, because I know a lot of really cool stuff is happening despite the world that we're in. So I hope we all have a chance to show what we can do in Shakopee schools to some people we wouldn't have otherwise, and I think they're going to be really happy.
Sure.
Yeah, Christy, I would agree with you. I was expecting a small or a bigger number with the minus sign on it. I'm very heartened to see, that it's this, I don't want to say minimal, but it's this small of an impact compared to what I was afraid of. I was concerned with, with the private schools getting a jump on us and offering full all day, every day, earlier in the summer than we were able to announce our plans. I was worried that this was going to be a much bigger number. So I'm,
Great.
pretty happy and, very impressed with the work that the district's done. So.
I have a question, because you can never have enough spreadsheets, right?
Yeah.
Do you have another layer of, like, a drill down that shows, like, 30% of the online kids at Eagle Creek are from, 5% is kindergarten, 10% is first grade, 1% is another grade? Do you have another?
I don't have that, but we could certainly do that and see if it's consistent across grade levels. But there might be an aberration in there, one that went heavy one way and the other, but because the aggregate, even at the schools, is pretty similar, I don't think if there's an outlier, it's just one thing and it's corrected by an outlier somewhere else. But if you want that, we can certainly get it.
It would be interesting, and I only say that because at a parent perspective, you kind of curious to know how many kids in your child's grade are doing online versus doing in school. It's just a nosy thing, I guess.
We can get that. We got it. We have to know where they're all going. So yeah, we got it. Okay.
Any
Good.
other questions for Dave?
All right. Thank you.
Great information. Thanks, Dave.
Thanks, Dave.
All right. So moving on to item 6.4, which is an update on the LTFM plan, and a consideration to approve that tonight. We have Bill Manazzi here to present to us.
Okay, good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, Dr. Redmond. Thank you for the opportunity to present the updated LTFM plan. It is in your school board packet and up on the screen as well. You'll see some various attachments related to the updated plan. And Sarah, I don't know that it's necessary to open up any of the attachments unless there's some just general questions on them. But what you'll see is the Statement of Assurances form from the MDE website. We do have our LTFM 10-year expenditure plan, as well as our LTFM 10-year revenue projection, which are spreadsheets generated from the Department of Education that we update as a school district. And then you will see our fiscal 21 through 30 LTFM plan in PDF form. So this may sound familiar to you. LTFM stands for Long-Term Facilities Maintenance, and our original plan was approved by the board on June 22nd. As required by MDE, and we did turn around and submit that plan up to MDE as required by July 31st. We have since revised the plan. In 2020 so far, we've issued 2020 Series A bond for energy efficiency projects. We've also issued 2020 Series B for LTFM, long-term facilities maintenance related projects, and now Series 2020 Series C, health and safety projects, will be coming to the board for recommendation of bond issuance next month. And that's all related to the district's long-term facilities plan. And the revision that you'll see here tonight is a little bit of a scale back from what was approved in June, related to the ongoing pandemic, related to an operating levy coming up, and just the need in the short term to live within those 3 bond issuances from 2020. The projects that were scaled back from the June plan to what you see now we did not forget about them, they just simply have been tabled and will be brought up at a future time to be determined after we get beyond all of this going on in the current environment. And the last thing I guess I would mention related to the plan, this has been reviewed by our Buildings and Grounds Manager, Ed Zemet, by our Facilities Committee last week, and then was mentioned briefly at the Finance Committee meeting this evening too, before the board meeting. So not much to it other than that. Revisions to the LTFM plan do need board approval, which is the reason why we're recommending it for approval tonight. If approved, we will turn around and submit this up to MDE to make this part of our levy process next month.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
So we have a motion by McKeon, second by Tucker, to approve the updated LTFM plan. Any further questions?
I have a question. Are all the construction things that are going on right now, like at East and stuff, all scheduled to be ready by start of school? Do you know?
I don't know that I know the answer to that. But would I be happy? Yeah, Mike.
The bulk of them will, and the things that are remaining are stuff that won't interfere with the function of school. And so they've planned it out that way. There's always a little bit of kind of, button up and some other, things. But they got an early jump on it, and so they've been able to progress nicely. And yep, there'll still be some of that work going on, but where we need to use the facility, for students and staff, that'll be all fully functional.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, if I could just add one comment, and this just, we talk about long-term facilities maintenance revenue, and a lot of times I think kind of gets the short end of the stick when we talk about things, and I get it. We're not talking about cosmetic things, and for me, I always picture, and this is a little bit of an age test, and I think I've probably shared this before, the Fram oil filter commercials, where the guy's got the engine up on chains and, you can pay me now or you can pay me later. This is really, we have an investment in facilities in our district, and so maintaining those helps to improve the quality while you're using it, but also extends for the life of the facilities. And so it's things like roofs and HVAC systems and electric and water. And people might go, wow, there were construction work at East and Sweeney all summer long. And you might not, you might go into the building and go, yeah, there's some stuff that changed, but the bulk of the work was up on the roofs. It was in the HVAC system. And it's what you would want to do with your own house. You want to be taking care of the roof, and you want to be taking care of the furnace and all those things, because it's, ultimately the building lasts longer and it functions better for that duration. So I feel like we always want to call that out because people won't necessarily notice that. It's not, a lot of times it's behind the scenes, but it's really, really important work, and it's something that I believe we've got an obligation to keep a handle on that and do it well, and so I appreciate what Bill and his team have been doing.
So we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion or questions for Bill or Mike? Seeing none, Sarah, could you do the roll?
Aldrich,
Yes.
Brophy,
Yes.
Christensen, McKeon,
Yes.
Tomzik,
Yes?
Tucker,
Yes.
and Peterson.
Yes. Thank you, Bill. We're going to keep you up here for item 6.5, which is next in our agenda, which is an update on our budget process and timeline.
Yeah, so thank you, Sarah, for pulling this up. And again, in your board packet up on the screen, you will see a 2020-21 finance timeline. Just a lighthearted comment as we start this agenda item. Typically, I have liked to try to provide the finance timeline for the entire fiscal year. I sat down to do that amidst the pandemic and the financial challenges related to that and just everything that we all know is going on. Got to December and thought, okay, I'm going to reevaluate it then. So this is a timeline for half of the fiscal year. This is through December 31st, okay? And I should give the disclaimer that this is always subject to change as needed, as noted by tonight, right? August 24th, we did look at LTFM, which has actually been an update since I put this together. So this can and will change periodically through the year. But really the main purpose here, as I have highlighted in red, green, and blue, is for the board, the School Board Finance Committee, and then the Citizens Finance Advisory Committee, the CFAC group, to sort of know what to expect, know what's coming as we go throughout the year. And really under the umbrella here for the first part of the year of three main areas are our financial audit, and I'll review some of the main ones, Sarah, as well. Our financial audit, upcoming bond sale, as I mentioned, and then operating levy. So as we look here on September 8th, we will have a CFAC meeting where the CFAC group will review the 2020 Pay 21 levy timeline. We will possibly do an audit preview. We do have audit fieldwork scheduled for the week of September 14th. And then sort of other topics to possibly include an operating levy discussion as well. The school board work session on September 14th, we will be presenting the 2020 Pay 21 preliminary levy for discussion. And then we will also be talking about a potential bond refunding, which will provide potential taxpayer savings related to refunding some of our existing debt. So think about bond refunding similar to refinancing a mortgage. Interest rates are good, and that's a financially prudent thing to look at doing. You'll see that next month. And then as I mentioned in the previous agenda item, you will see a recommendation on our 2020 Series C Health and Safety bond sale resolution. And then finally in September on the 28th, you will see the 20 Pay 21 preliminary levy recommended for approval, and that's just a standard calendar item. The Department of Education requires school districts to certify their preliminary levy each year by the end of September, first part of October. That information then is used in the estimated tax statements that go out to district taxpayers in the month of November. And obviously that information is subject to change this year related to the operating levy on the November 3rd ballot. So that's an important step that we will take on September 28th. Fast forward then to October 26th, the School Board Finance Committee will be tasked with reviewing the 2020 audit and then also operating levy. And then at the board meeting, we will look at our monthly budget update and then the bond sale results from both the 2020 Series D and 2020 Series C. If approved in September, the board will be presented with the results there on October 26th. Going down the list just slightly, Sarah, if you could, you'll see on November 23rd, we have scheduled for Bergen KDV, our external audit firm, to be here to present the audit results from the 2020 audit. I do have on there to look at a potential update to our Pay 21 levy based off of the November 3rd election. And then we will start looking already at our fiscal 21 revised budget. And so you'll recall we approved our budget or preliminary budget for fiscal 21 this year on June 22nd. And then we've kind of just been going along, and obviously quite a few changes to budget related to both the revenue side of the ledger and the expenditure side of the ledger with some of the ongoing pandemic. And we'll be presented with some parameters related to that starting first on November 23rd. And then finally, on December 14th, we will have our Truth in Taxation hearing and presentation, and then the possibility for recommendation on the fiscal 21 revised budget. Otherwise, right away in January, the board will be presented a recommendation on the revised budget for fiscal 21. So again, just a sort of high-level overview. So if you are looking forward, and I say that a little bit tongue-in-cheek, if you're looking forward to any finance-related items for the board agenda, you kind of have this in front of you and can know what to expect here in the coming months.
Any questions for Bill? I know, Joe, you're going to have all those dates on your calendar, right?
They're
To look
already
forward to.
saved.
Christie, if I may again, I just want to share where this comes from, and Bill's doing a great job. This is entirely Bill's initiative and his, worldview of how, the world of being a finance director should work, where we lay it out and we do all this. So I applaud that initiative, and I just think it's great stuff, so thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, Bill, the financial stuff that you've been presenting has been awesome, so keep up the great work. Seeing no further questions or discussion, thank you for giving us that information, Bill.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Bill.
Thanks, Bill.
Moving on to item 6.6. Mike is going to give us a update on the levy that we have upcoming.
Yeah, and Sarah, you've got the levy information projected. Awesome. I flipped to another screen so I can read it. I've got the font a little bigger here. There continues to be a tremendous amount of effort in the area of providing informative communications for the November 3rd operating levy. And even this is a little bit of a follow-up to the presentation I gave at the most recent school board meeting on August 10th. But it's a list with links and information. There's now a short informational video, which I think I've seen on Facebook and other social media, that is linked on our website. There's a fact sheet, so all of these are live links built right into our school board agenda. There's a sample ballot. The tax calculator, that's the question that came up on August 10th. That's there, it's up and running. We're working on, right now you would need to pull out your tax statement and pull up the assessed value of your property and plug that in to get the numbers. We're working with our financial advisors from Baker Tilly to get this updated where you could put your individual address in, and we'll have that shortly. I know that question's been asked. There's a website to connect to. It's shakopee-levy2020.org, and that will lead you to all of these links and other information on our website. We continue to have an email for questions. If people have questions, we would certainly love to address those. And the email address is referendum@shakopee.k12.mn.us. And there's also a phone number if somebody would like to call. And again, ask questions or leave a voicemail, and we'll certainly get back to you. But again, lots of information out there. Happy to address any questions or any concerns or share information at any time. And just wanted to spend a couple minutes sharing this information and that message with the board this evening.
Any questions for Mike in regards to this information?
Just a comment, really glad to see the tax calculator there. I think that a lot of people are going to use that and be happy to have it available. So thanks for that.
Mike, do you know when the actual ballot will be unveiled as far as what's all on the ballot for November 3rd?
Are we talking all the elected
All the,
offices?
yeah, what the actual ballot will look like for Shakopee?
Boy, good question. I know all that information had to go into the county auditor and Secretary of State's office last Friday.
Okay.
And I don't know what their timeline is for when they come out with kind of sample ballots for the area, but we'll keep an eye on that and try to find a date.
All right.
Do you know when early voting starts? It
I
might
think
even
it's
be
the
in
18th.
September 18th.
Yeah, so it has to be by then.
Okay. Anything else?
Who's going to be answering that email address, just so that people will know?
Depends on the question. They actually get forwarded to, to me. I think I've got a link every third day in my calendar to look at those. And then depending, if it's a deep financial question, we forward it to Bill. If it's something about enrollment numbers, maybe, we'd go right to Dave after that presentation. But we try to get, depending on the question, depending on, sometimes the questions cross over from areas, looking for historical perspective or looking for something specific. So, but we've got a system set up where it comes in, and we do our best to turn those around, in no longer than 48 hours.
Good, thanks.
All right, we will move on to item 6.7, which is a consideration to approve updated secondary school hours for the upcoming school year. Mike?
Yeah, this is, we've been working very closely with our transportation folks, and this is something that came out of a discussion with them about how to provide, the best in terms of safe transportation for our students. It worked out very well when we looked at structuring, for the hybrid learning at our elementary school a little while back, with what we wanted to do and kind of stack the teacher meeting and prep time at the start of the day and have a little bit later start time. Worked really, really well with the bus schedules, and it allowed them between tiers to do a deep cleaning and a disinfecting on the morning routes. And we've been meeting really about once a week now, but at last Tuesday's meeting, they really asked us, hey, would it ever be possible? We feel we can do, a decent level cleaning with the tiers the way they've existed, over the last few years. But if we could expand that time between, the first 3 tiers by 10 minutes each, boy, then we could do a really deep disinfecting cleaning. We'd have enough time to, drive the bus around when the weather's seasonable with the windows down and the vent open and get that, everything dry. And in the winter, maybe turn the fans up and maybe, do a little bit of, kind of wiping, but really do a deep, disinfecting type cleaning. Well, in order to do that, we would need to move the departure time, the release time, the end of the school day time at the middle schools 30 minutes earlier, and we need to adjust the high school day also by 30 minutes. And then we started thinking about, all right, how would that work? And one of the key pieces, especially if we're in a hybrid or if we're, in the distance part of IHD, it would allow the teacher that 30 minutes again to potentially connect with students, especially if it's, hey, this was my off-site day and I got stuck on something during the day. Now there's a block of time where I could reach out or get an answer. And also just, really, to help teachers and others continue to do the work needed. Looks like I got needed in there. Must be doubly important in there twice, but needed due to the extenuating circumstances surrounding this school year. So I think it works well, and it would be my recommendation that we approve it, for this year, again, in response to the pandemic. The ultimate driver was, really making the extra effort in terms of bus safety, health and safety on the buses, and then also I do think it provides benefit for, student learning and for just in general how we're running our programming at the secondary schools as well.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion by McKean, second by Brophy. Any further discussion?
I would just say this has been vetted, I assume, by the principals and some people.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
That's once the bus company, it's been a series of steps and going, hey, would it work? And they all really said, yeah, with all just the sort of changes and moving parts and things like that, I think it might even allow people to kind of catch their breath at the end and really, like I said, it's a chance to connect with students who in a real timely fashion within the fabric of a day, and it's a win-win on both ends.
Great.
Any other questions? Yeah, I think it makes sense to do just from a health and safety standpoint as well, to make sure that our buses are as clean and sanitary as we can possibly get them. And it also, I like the idea that teachers will also have extra time to prep and also reach out to students that might need some extra assistance or contacts. So I think it's great all the way around.
I do have a question. Another question, sorry. This would be the same for online students as well? Or is that different?
Online has their own, with synchronous and asynchronous and things like that. So this is really, it's
Just for the hybrid.
Transportation is only going to be used by the students in the
Right.
IHD program.
Okay, thanks.
Anything else?
Yeah, just one quick question. I'm assuming the sports that are running this fall and then later on, they will just move up 30 minutes?
Yeah, and I think there's even some advantages there because they have a different set of, when it comes to health and safety in terms of protocols and, those of you who've been following, some of the fall sports, and you see the Twitter and you see what they're doing to bring in different groups of kids at different times and have all that breaking apart. This also, buys a little bit of time, and especially, immediately after school too. So, yeah, there didn't seem to be any concerns there, and for the most part, it'd probably be beneficial.
Good.
All right, seeing no other questions or discussion, Sarah, could you please do the roll?
Aldrich,
Yes.
Brophy,
Yes.
Christensen, McKeon,
Yes.
Tomsick,
Yes.
Tucker,
Yes.
and Peterson.
Yes, thank you. Moving on to item 6.8, which is the consideration to approve the learning model for the start of the school year on September 8th. Mike?
Yeah, this is ultimately going to be, on behalf of the leadership team, it'll be the superintendent recommendation for the learning model with which Shakopee Public Schools would be suggested we begin the school year. And going back, I think this has been an item that we've been studying, digging into, really since the middle of March. And if things continued, and obviously, in the middle of June, we got guidance from the state to prepare to do 3 different learning models, and so and continued really to do research, not only around the country but around the world, and how are things functioning. And as you obviously recall, at the Monday, August 10th board meeting, the school board approved a resolution, which is really the process and the supporting foundation of how we're planning to make decisions in terms of learning models for this coming school year. Highlights of that are, on the page that Sarah is showing, and really a key piece of that is, based upon, these factors, this is how we're going to do things, and it's really using the data coming from the Minnesota Department of Health, the Scott County Department of Health, relying on the experts who designed that table, and I don't know if you're at the table, but it shows the number of cases over 14 days per 10,000 by county, and then the different learning models that would be suggested by the experts at the Department of Health, both at the state and county level, and then also by the Department of Education. And as we've shared before, that really our goal to follow the data, especially if the data is consistent and solid and reliable. We've also, the resolution, if we scroll down to where it says section 3, talks about, the superintendent is, authorized after consultation with the school board chair and notification to select and implement different learning models. So we've got kind of some backup planning built into how we're doing decision making, the information, how that would change as well. And so then if we go below the dotted line, which is really this evening's recommendation, and again, also approved in the resolution on August 10th was the establishment of the Pandemic Response Advisory Team, which has students, teachers, parents, district leadership, and folks like that, and who've really dug deeply into the matter and into the issues, and also have been charged with providing advice as an advisory team would do to both the superintendent and the school board. And at the Friday, August 21st meeting, this past Friday, of this Pandemic Response Advisory Team, the team reached very strong consensus on 2 important topics regarding the learning model to be used to start the school year. The first of these 2 topics is to follow the data from the Minnesota Department of Health and other experts. And the second is based on the most recent data, is to begin the school year in the hybrid learning model for all students who've selected the Shakopee IHD program, assuming the data remains stable. As superintendent, I agree with and support the advice of the Pandemic Response Advisory Team, and also, the leadership team of the district. The official Scott County new COVID-19 cases per 10,000 residents for the time period July 26th through August 8th is 24.83. And if you look in that diagram and chart that we showed earlier in this document. That's really right in the middle where it would indicate hybrid learning for all students in grades K to 12. Analysis of additional unofficial data for Scott County and the city of Shakopee, trying to get more recent data, knowing that some testing hasn't necessarily been returned to the state or the county. But all of those showed that the data appears to be stable, appears to be in that kind of mid-20 range. The data when we did the unofficial type calculations are somewhere between 22 and 27, so we would expect moving forward that number of cases that the most recent release for our county was 24.83. We would expect similar numbers next week and the week after. And so at this exact point in time, there's no indication of a trend towards higher case numbers. The case numbers per 10,000, there's really no indication of a strong trend either way, although there might be, it appears the numbers are plateauing, might be starting to decline, and whether that decline will be sustained or not, is really anybody's prediction. So on behalf of the district leadership team, my recommendation after an incredible amount of thought and research and study in a situation that ultimately you have to do a lot of soul searching, and you're really trying to figure out what is in the best interest of kids and what is the right decision. And I think it's also important to mention, in combination with Shakopee Online, which gave people the choice to opt into an entirely distance learning platform. But my recommendation to the school board is for the students in grades K-12 in the Shakopee IHD program to begin the school year in the hybrid learning model. Please note that in hybrid learning, kindergarten students will attend school on site every day, as we've talked about previously, as we manage class sizes in this grade level so they meet the standards for hybrid models. I believe it is also important to highlight Section 3 of the resolution approved on August 10th, and I talked about that a little bit earlier. But we will continue to monitor the situation very closely between now and September 8th. If the data or the science indicate the right course of action would be to change to distance learning, we would certainly make that change, obviously, as it's laid out in the resolution, with sharing that information with the school board chair and the board. And so it's not as though we make a decision tonight and then we stop, surveying the situation. We continue with that strong vigilance. We continue to meet with the Pandemic Response Advisory Team, and part of their role then is to look at future changes, which could be to more in-person learning or could potentially be to more distance learning, depending on the data. But at the heart, it's to let the data, let the experts from the Department of Health and the data they're providing guide our decision making. And so with that, I would respectfully ask the school board to consider approving this action.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
So we have a motion by Brophy, second by Aldrich. Discussion.
Mike, I have a quick question, and this is probably for a later time, and so I'm assuming you're just going to say we're going to discuss this at a later time, but how many consecutive weeks under 20 do you think that we would decide, hey, we're going to change the learning model to in-person for the elementary kids? 2 weeks, 4 weeks? And would it matter if we're at like 19 or 15 or 14?
I think it does matter, and I think that's why having this pandemic response advisory team is a great sounding board for questions like that, because what you don't want to do is, hey, it bounced to 19.9, let's switch, and then the week later it's back to 20.4, hey, let's switch back. And so I think it's also trying to see if there's trends, and if you feel, I think we would want it solidly within those other ranges where we felt it was going to be there and be stable. And certainly, there's different ways of looking at it. Then there's different, if you're talking elementary, moving into where they would be in person, which you're talking about that 10 to 20 range,
Right.
10 to 20 range, where the secondary still stays in hybrid. Logistically, that's different than if you moved, you know, into an entirely different range, 0 to 10. So I think we also bring in, as part of this advisory team, we bring a snapshot of our systems. We bring our operations folks, we bring our health services folks, we bring our human resources folks. You know, what is our system? How's it functioning? What's the level of substitute teacher availability? And so those are also factors. But certainly we wouldn't want to be on a trend line and making that decision too quickly or on a line that's bouncing back and forth. We want to try to make decisions where we're going to be in, one form of learning, for an extended period of time. And with that, I always, and this has just become habit, certainly if we saw something in an area or something where there's, an outbreak or infections or whatever, we're going to take aggressive action. That's one place where me as a superintendent, and it's the same whether we're talking about a winter storm or whatever, that if we see something happening, we might make the error of being too aggressive in sort of pulling the plug on something like that out of, concern for safety of kids and staff. But those, hopefully those type of situations are non-existent or few and far between. So I think that's a separate category, a third category, if you will, kind of the, you've got a strong uptick or you've got, a really serious situation that appears it's starting to occur.
Yeah, so Mike, barring that, what I would call an emergency situation, an outbreak type thing, if we were seeing the numbers tick up, get into the high 20s, and maybe the team would be considering moving to the 30-plus model, what kind of notice would families be given that step would be taken? Would that be 2 weeks, a week?
Yeah, what we've built into the system is a 10-day notice, and that's where we've laid out the Pandemic Response Advisory Team is meeting every Friday, which is exactly 10 days, not from the Monday that follows, but from the Monday after that. Knowing that, people need time to adjust their lives, and again, you're talking about the non-emergency type situations where our goal would be to announce that 10 days ahead of time so that people have time to adjust, both our families and the students, and also, on the school side of things, offering services, there's adjustments that need to be made as well.
Thank you.
Any other discussion?
It's clear to me that there has been excellent planning for this on the part of the leadership team. They've really considered the health and safety of our students and especially the learning of our students, and I really applaud that. But I have to say, after considerable thought and research, I still have reservations about opening a large high school to any in-person learning. When I think about the bell ringing for first hour that first day, and there's something like 1,100 kids in the halls, and some adults too, that concerns me.
And I feel the same way. As much as I want kids back in school, I also think that there's a risk with a large high school such as Shakopee and other communities with the large number of students that we have in this building. I'm more concerned about the high school than I am at the elementary level because of the number of kids that we have here. But one of the questions that I had in regards to this plan is we have not talked about staffing. And I've kind of held that question. I didn't know if it fell into when Dave was giving his presentation on numbers or if this really fell here, but where are we at with staffing as far as online, in classroom? Have we struggled in any particular area? I know some school districts are struggling with getting enough teachers to be in the classroom to teach. So I just would like to get a little bit of an update as far as how we are as a district. Maybe that's Keith, is that?
Yeah.
We did have, we have some interviewing that we're doing. I think the information we've heard from principals is very positive about the additional teachers, and it's just a handful of teachers that we're interviewing right now. So I'd say compared to what you're hearing out there about difficulty with staffing, maybe even read some articles about different school districts, I think we're in good shape. We have
Have we struggled at all with not being able to accommodate teachers that have not wanted to be in the classroom? Or is it been pretty even across the board?
I think that, I know at one point we talked about trying to come up with a percentage of how many people were we able to place. We were able to place unequivocally every teacher who had a legitimate, verified medical need to not be in school, whether it be their family member or not. Then the teachers who were fell below that, I think the majority of those, we are continuing to find other settings for them if there are, non-medical documented issues. I think even those we've been able to make some accommodation.
Okay.
So has everybody done what they want? I have to check today, but I think we are very close.
Okay, that's great to hear. Dave?
Just to add to that, and I'd agree the majority, I think would be good. Maybe at some point they have some stats on that. But what Keith is talking about is generally a process that takes a number of months to get through, that has now gotten through in a very tight time frame. So a ton of time and effort has been done, and I think starting a little bit earlier, when we did that in early August and started gathering that information, has really allowed us to get to a pretty good place on that. I think there is some flexibility on licensure as well through PELSB, the Professional Education Licensing Board. There's an extra S in there maybe, but you got most of them. So I think because of that, we were able to accommodate most people. It is a super challenging, not just because of the tightness, but because you're really staffing 2 programs in a window that we normally wouldn't do. But despite all that, I'll say Keith and Nancy and the team and the principals have really worked hard to try to make sure that this worked for people. And so there are challenges for everybody. This is a hard time for everybody to make decisions, and it's been hard for our staff as well. And sometimes you think you know what you're going to be doing, and then the world changes. And so I think there are definitely challenges there that don't go away. But I think for the most part, we were really able to get everybody what they had requested. But I'm not going to sit here and tell you it's perfect, but it's pretty darn good, I think.
And your follow-up question was what I wanted to ask Keith too, so that was great. And I've even heard of a couple situations where we've had to ask folks if they would be okay working in online. So again, I think the phrase I've used is nearly all of those requests were able to be honored. And that was, one of the situations. I know some other districts have really, really had a challenge with that. And again, like Dave said, not going to say it's been perfect, but a lot of work has gone into it and a lot of creative planning. And we have, very, very few situations where, the license issues being stretched. It is some places with doing the Apex courses in the online, but some of that is, it's really unavoidable. So I think we started with the right end in mind, is how do we work with our teachers? How do we work with our staff, knowing that our ultimate goal is to serve students as best we can, and then really, I think we were early on, and I know I've shared our, development of that criteria that Keith talked about. So kudos to his team, kind of the medical criteria, and then kind of the steps below that, and having a process where we went from a survey, which really, is kind of split in terms of, preference or what people desired, and then a few real strong opinions on both ends. And so went from that to a process that had, I think good, reasonable criteria that we had, worked collaboratively to develop. So thank you.
And then just one other thing that I'd like to mention is I know that you have been working with the Scott County Health Department on a very regular, very frequent basis to be even more up to date with numbers as much as possible outside of the 2-week state release of the numbers. So I just want to make sure that the community knows, or if anybody's listening, that this is not a decision that we are making inside 4 walls in our district, that we are including community members, we're including parents. We have been in close contact with Scott County Health Department to make sure that what we are doing is the right thing to do. So thank you for spending a lot of time with that. Is there any further discussion or comments on our back-to-school plan? Again, I think a lot of fabulous work has been done by so many people in our district, and I believe we are ahead of so many districts in many different areas with our back-to-school plan. So thank you to everyone that's been involved with that. Seeing no further questions, we do have a motion and a second, so I will ask Sarah to call the roll.
Aldrich,
Yes.
Brophy,
Yes.
Christensen, McKeon,
Yes.
Tomzig,
No.
Tucker,
Yes.
and Peterson.
No. Moving on to item 7, which is other. Are there any other topics that we need to talk about tonight?
I have a question, not a discussion. Facebook kindly reminded me that a few years ago was new teacher get-together or party or welcome to the district, whatever it's called. Are we doing that again this year? And if so, is it like virtual? Are they doing it in person? In the past, board members have been invited to attend. Just curious to know about that.
I'm going to start by answering that it started today. And our learning, teaching, and equity team and Annie Rentz welcomed our new teachers. We were right in the thrust stage here, and I know it's been altered and adjusted. Some of the things that they've done in terms of some of the bus rides and some of the social things I know have been changed. And then I'm kind of looking, Dave, do you have any more awareness of that? I know there was an online option. This morning there were 2 or 3 folks that participated that way. Vast majority spread out here in the thrust stage, kind of like this meeting.
So, sorry, information on what the...
New Teacher Week, the induction.
So this morning they had the majority of the new teachers in here, and it was probably 30-ish people spread out in here, and you can still see some of the blue X's on the chairs that allowed them to social distance. So it was really a kickoff here, and then the majority of the rest of this week, if not all of it, is online. Just want to make sure, am I responding to the question? Okay. And then there was also training that started this week that was all remote for our teachers that are going to be part of the online program as well. And so, I think...
Thank you. I was just curious. Typically, we hear something about it, so I was just curious.
Yeah, I do. It was a smaller group than we've had
Sure.
over the last number of years, but they started in here. Annie Rentz leads that and did a really nice job and kicked that off. But I think that was really the only part. There might be one other part. I'm just not 100% sure that will be done remotely, the rest of it.
Perfect. Well, welcome to all the new teachers.
Yeah. Yep.
Thanks for bringing that up, Angela.
Sure.
Anything else under other? Seeing none, we will move on to item 8 of our agenda, which is committee reports. And we'll start with Judy this time.
At the Facilities Committee, we did discuss the LTFM that we approved here tonight. And we also talked about finishing up the projects at the south site and how everything was coming along well. And we talked a little bit about adding a bathroom to the ELC so that we add another lab class, lab facility for classes to students. So it's a good meeting.
Tim?
We had the resolution and then the addendum to the 102A that we had obviously second reading from a policy perspective, and no other updates on my end.
Okay. Joe?
We had the finance committee prior to this meeting. We basically covered everything in that meeting here also, and that's all I have.
Angela?
Ditto to what Joe said.
And Matt?
No meeting since the last meeting.
Okay. So, just looking around the room, Tiffany, do you have anything to add? Okay. Bill? Dave? Sarah? Let's see, who do we have here online?
Angelica was on.
Angelica, do you have anything for us tonight? I see you unmuted, Angela. Do you have anything?
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes.
I don't have anything,
Okay, thank you, Angelica. Bob Greeley, do you have anything? Okay. Did you have anything, Bob? All right, hearing none, I'm assuming we don't. Item number 9 then on the agenda is upcoming meetings and important dates. We have several meetings. We had a finance committee meeting tonight. And then our next meeting is for the Citizens Financial Advisory Committee, which will be on September 8th. And then our next work session will be on September 14th. And then there are several other meetings that will be taking place in September as well. I won't read all of those. And then we have back to school on September 8th. Anything, anything else?
I was going to say, or 10th if you're in the elementary schools.
Or 10th if you're in elementary. Okay, is there anything else we need to discuss before I entertain a motion to adjourn? Seeing none? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Tucker, second by Aldridge. Any further discussion? Sarah, could you do the roll?
Aldrich,
Yes.
Brophy,
Yes.
Christensen, McKeon,
Yes.
Tomzik,
Yes.
Tucker,
Yes.
and Peterson.
Yes. Thank you. Meeting is adjourned.
Thanks, Sarah.